Okay, so here we are. We're discussing books of the year. This is show one for us. Delighted to say Robbie Williams is here. How you doing, Robbie?
I'm really good, thanks,
and
guys.
You were just giving us some book recommendations. What are you saying?
Them by John Ronson is a great book. And then jokingly, I said I Am the Secret Footballer, but I loved I Am the Secret Footballer.
It's a great book.
Yeah, it is a great book, and I've read all the Secret Footballer books. I also like Hunt for the Skinwalker by George Knapp, and there's a ranch in Utah called Skinwalker Ranch where mysterious phenomena happens regularly, and I visited the ranch after reading the book, and I could say that nothing happened.
So
I like Hunt for the Skinwalker. What else do I like? I like Jim Marr's books too, and they're all like conspiracy-based UFO stuff, so that's what I'm into.
Does that mean you're into conspiracy theories in general, or you just like reading about them?
Well, you know, when the internet started to become huge, there was various rabbit holes that you could fall into and go down, and I spent a lot of time down those rabbit holes and going, oh my God, the world is an illusion and we're being run by reptiles and this is a terrible thing. Thank God the internet now has exposed this and uncovered it. And I'm out of those rabbit holes.
Right, okay.
They're not good places to be, Robbie.
No, well, they're interesting, and you know, I needed a break from the real world, to be honest with you. I was getting a lot of real world stuff happening to me, and I needed, I suppose, could be fiction, could be not fiction, place to go and, you know, unravel in my own delusions and fantasies. And I enjoyed my time there, but if you mix that with marijuana, it can be a heady mix. Oh my God, we've got to get out of California. This is a bomb going off. And Ida, my wife, we need to move to Montana, because if we don't move to Montana, the San Andreas fault is going to break off and everybody's doomed. But I'm not there anymore.
So the book is Reveal, which you've done with Chris Heath. So can you just, who you've worked with before, can you just tell us how that works, and so in putting this book, which is enormously entertaining and
great, thank you,
and very profound at times, and very moving as well. Does he just hang out with you a lot? How does that work?
Well, first off, Chris Heath's a very good friend of mine that's incredibly gifted and smart, incredible journalist, and you know, people that know him and know his stuff love him, and I would suggest that more people go and check him out and his stuff, because he's an incredible mind, and but first and foremost, he's a good mate of mine. And you don't get to hang out with your mates an awful lot, especially with the job that I've got, where I could be in Albania one day and then in Argentina the next day. And I get to hang out with Chris a lot because he's with me and a tape recorder. I'm from the 90s, everybody. He gets his phone out with the app or whatever it is, and he records everything that I say and I do. And it's kind of, the book is through his and my eyes. I don't want to, because people go, oh, you've done an autobiography that other people have written, for you've got a ghostwriter. That's not what this book is. I don't pretend that this book is in my voice, although it's about me and it's everything that I say and do over the last, I don't know, 8 years. So that's the process. Chris gets together with me, turns his recorder on, or whatever you call it nowadays, and then he writes about it.
You mean it's not a reel-to-reel tape recorder, which he then...
He's moved on from that. He's got a DAT machine.
Wow.
A DAT DAT machine. It's not as cumbersome as the other stuff.
Did he... And then once he's sort of transcribed and put some ideas, and the book jumps around between different dates, it's kind of arranged more thematically than chronologically. Was there anything that he'd written that you said, can we not do that? Can we lose that? Or maybe you mentioned it to your wife and she said, because it's, you know, it's full and it's frank and it feels as though everything's in here.
Yeah, everything's in there. Actually, Chris is like, do you mind if we don't put that in? Because he wants to protect me. And I sort of, there's something missing in me. I have big blind spots where I don't, maybe Asperger's or autistics. I don't know what spectrum I'm on, but I'm on something where it'd be like, well, we can't possibly put that in. And I'm like, oh, why not? And they said, well, it's awful. And I'm like, is it? So genuinely, I'm not making it up. I'm not being terse. I genuinely mean that. I have massive blind spots where I'm like almost begging him to leave things in. It's all in there. It's a curse and a blessing that the shame I feel doesn't spur me on to act in a more grown-up manner.
I just want to mention your wife before Matt comes in, because Ida is the star of the book, really. Apart from yourself, I mean, you've done pretty well there. She comes over as a complete saint.
Yeah, she does, and she is. She's incredibly smart, really funny. She speaks like several languages. I'm punching way above my weight. And she loves me, and I love her, and our relationship is incredible. And it's what it is in the book. If she's hiding something Machiavellian from me, she's doing an incredible job, and long may it continue. But she does come across as a star, and she deserves to.
And I love the book, and the reason I love the book is it's so honest. Now, I've read tons of sport autobiographies, and there are good ones and there are bad ones, and basically the difference between them is whether that person's going to be honest or not.
Well, go on. Sorry.
Well, no. So yours is really honest, and you've mentioned either there, and the sequence that for me made me think straight away, this is definitely going to be honest, is when you and Ida are having a row. I think you're on a plane, and Chris is sat over the aisle from you, and he details in the book exactly what's going on in this row. And I think at the end, Chris is basically saying, I'm not sure this should go in. I think it's Ida who says it should go in.
Yeah.
And it's at that point that I thought, oh, right, if that's going in, and bluntly, you don't come out of that particularly well.
No, I don't. But, I never know on which particular day our humour is matching, because mine and Ida's humour is quite dark, and we can take the mickey out of each other. And on any particular day, we'll both be having digs at each other that we quite enjoy, because I think that might be a British thing, and she's got British sensibilities. And then on another day, she might say something to me where I'm completely sensitive and can't take it. And so it is with her too. And most of the time, it dovetails, and we're both joking about completely sensitive things at the same time. Then sometimes we're not. And that particular bit in the book that you're talking about, I wasn't sure whether we were both joking or whether she was really hurt, and I think she was more hurt than joking. But you're right, it's like I read biographies about sportsmen too,
Okay.
and you kind of like, I enjoyed Matt Letizier's book.
Yeah.
It was very detailed.
Uh-huh.
So I just read Matt Letizier's book, and then I opened Paul Merson's book. And like the first page is detailing him with his hand in a door, just about to close it on it, so he breaks his fingers so he can't make a bet. And it was two very, very different books. And I know what you're saying about the honesty, and hopefully people will enjoy how deeply I reveal myself, excuse the pun.
Yeah, and because reveal is the title of the book. Why do you think? I mean, you outline quite painfully the extent to which a lot of people hate you and despise you. These are your words, not mine. Do you ever sort of sit and think why that is? Is it just the natural counterbalance to being so hugely successful that bad stuff comes your way, or is there something else going on?
I really don't know, and whatever particular time you get me on, whatever particular day, my theories about it are different. What is interesting is my compulsion to go and seek that out. The compulsion to go and seek bad stuff about myself so I can justify the bad things that I think about myself. And I'm sure psychiatrists and therapists will have a field day, and they continue to this day. But, it's very simple. Don't read it. But yet I'm sort of addicted to the rush or whatever it is that kicks in the brain. I'm addicted to go and find. There you go. I'm an idiot. There you go. I can't sing. There you go. That song was bad. I knew it was. And it's another thing that's a curse and a blessing, because equally it propels me forward and it's made me the person I am today. But it's time to give it a rest. I'm 44, you know, it's like I've done all right for myself, and it shouldn't really matter. But
it's like when some people read what I think is generally referred to as, you know, the underside of the internet. You know, if you read things that are above the line, proper journalism, that's quite interesting. And then you read the comments or the notice board, you're thinking, wow, there is so much hatred and so much nastiness out there.
Do you read that about yourself?
I absolutely don't. Never, ever do that.
Because you're a proper grown-up.
Well, it just seems to me you're on a hiding to nothing. You know, you end up just feeling terrible. But the whole thing, it's anonymous, it's poisonous. Why go there?
Absolutely, which is another reason I suppose me and Paul Merson have got something in common. You know, he's there trying to stop himself from doing something he knows he shouldn't do by closing the door on his fingers. Me and him have that addictive personality, and, you know, maybe one day I'll find myself with my fingers between a door trying to not press Robbie Williams on Google.
You say a number of times in the book it's quite hard work being Robbie Williams.
It's quite hard work being in my head. You know, I have an interesting compulsion, addiction, mental illness, I would say, to give it a term. And I would have that whether I be Robbie Williams, the pop star, or Robert Williams, the labourer working in Stoke-on-Trent. I just get to tell more people about it because of my job.
Does it get any easier?
Yes, it does. I feel as though I wasn't somebody that had the capabilities to take on board what life had given me, the great opportunities and the highs and the lows. When I was a kid, I just didn't have the sensibilities, and I seem to be filling my shoes a bit more, especially since the kids have arrived, that, okay, this is me, this is what I've been given, it's a wonderful life, let's get on with it. And day to day, things change. You know, I seem to change with the breeze, and I do the same thing as I did the day before, eat the same things, have the same sleeping pattern. But today's a different day, and I don't know why it's difficult to get out of bed. Not this day in particular. It just is my makeup. It's who I am. I deal with it better now, and I'm filling my shoes. I wish it just hadn't taken so long.
Yeah. And you talk about, we've mentioned Ida, and you have Teddy and Charlie, your kids. And at the start of, I think it's pretty much at the start of the book, you have I'm not going to get married and I'm not having kids. They're the rules. Well, that didn't go very well.
So, yeah, tell God your plans, and he laughs at them. They were my 2 commandments: thou shalt not get married and thou shalt not have kids. I come from a broken home, which sounds really more severe than it actually was. And I just looked around me, and I couldn't see a decent advert for marriage. You know, I just saw people one-upping each other in arguments, unhappy, and it didn't look like a good place to be. Also, you know, I was going around the world soiling my oats, and that had to stop. And I knew that traditionally you have to be monogamous, and I thought, well, I can't be that. So also, I want to be a good person, and I don't want to break anybody's heart. So there's no great advert. I can't be monogamous. Let's not do that. And then where kids are concerned, it's like, I'm an infant. I can't look after myself. How am I going to look after a child? So I thought I was doing the sane thing by, you know, acknowledging that I can't do either of those things. And then Ida happened, and she came into my life, and all of those things changed. It's interesting what you're definite about during your 20s, and how you could never see your world being any way, in any shape, different than you think it is going to be. And you're idealistic, and then just things change, life happens, it takes a different course, and you get on with it.
I tell you what jumps out of this book for me is, and I don't think we really, it certainly comes across from you talking, but we haven't really talked about it so far as the book's concerned, and it is enormously funny. It is so funny.
Oh, great.
Now, the one bit I want you to talk about, and I'm hoping you're going to remember this sequence, because I was reading this in the garden, and I laughed so loud that my wife came out and she wanted to know what it was.
Great.
And this is you talking to Elton John on the phone.
Oh, yes.
Elton John on the phone about, right, he's just, I'm going to prompt you as much as I can, but I want you to tell the story. He's just come off after a concert, and you're congratulating him about that and his album. But the reason for the phone call is that you want to make shot for shot the video of, I think it's I'm Still Standing.
I'm Still Standing. I don't remember it. I'm really
don't
sorry.
remember that?
No, I'm really sorry. I don't remember it. I roughly know that happened.
Yeah.
But my short-term and long-term memory is not
it
great.
Is so good. Right. Shall I tell you what happens?
okay.
Okay, so now this is a section of Robbie's life now being retold by Matt Williams.
Okay.
So you're on the phone to him, and this is a really lengthy conversation, and you are basically saying congratulations on the new album, it's great, and you've just come off. How was the concert? Brilliant. All these, and both of you, and you're sharing this real, and it is a lengthy conversation, and you then say about I was watching I'm Still Standing the other day, and I really want to remake this video shot for shot. Is that okay? Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, of course. And this goes on for like 20 minutes. It's pages and pages of this book, and you put the phone down and you say, wrong number.
Okay, all right. Yeah, the old ones are the oldest. Yeah, it's the wrong number. Oh, great, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really pleased it made you laugh. I do that all the time, though. I do that all the time. Yeah, I'll be in deep personal conversations with my wife, and I'll be in a car full of people, and I'll put the phone down and say it's the wrong number. Yeah.
Have you had to check any of these stories back with? Because a lot of famous people in this book, obviously, because you interact with lots of famous people because they're part of your circle. Does anything have to be checked with them? Is it okay if I mention this story?
Well, the book's been out for a while now. This is the paperback version. And if there was anybody to apologise for, it would have been in the first rounds of people receiving the book. It would seem that with this book, I don't have a lot to apologise for. And, the people that were pulled up and I've been mean about, I think deserved it.
One other incident, then, I think you might remember this, but I thought it was a very moving moment, is after a gig that you did at the O2 and your father is there, and there's a conversation that happens about your control of an audience, and because he was an entertainer himself, wasn't he? And he marvels. He says, I would go on stage and I'd have a few hundred people there, and I'd work the room, and I can do that. But he said, you come on the stage. My son goes on the stage, and he's got 40,000 people there, and he has them from the word go. And you can tell there's a sense of kind of wonder and marvel there.
Yeah, my dad's my hero. I grew up watching him work. And my dad, was it Art Knox on New Faces? I think it was New Faces. He won his round on New Faces in 1974. And became the Pete Conway comedian from the television. And I grew up marvelling at him and watching his ability to put people in the palm of his hand and keep them there all evening. And I knew that was the path that I wanted to take. I wanted to be my dad. I wanted to be like my dad. And if he'd had the opportunity to stand in front of 40,000, 60,000, 70,000 people, he would have done and still does the same thing. So it's high praise indeed from my hero.
And when you step out, as you did just a few days ago when you're in Russia, when you step out, do you feel as though you have everyone there? Maybe it was a completely different event because it was the start of a sporting tournament. But when you step on stage, do you get an instant feel as to whether you do have that control?
It's a lottery whether Robbie Williams turns up or not. I get on stage and sometimes I have to do it myself and it's terrifying. And then sometimes Robbie Williams turns up and I'm glad he's there because he's
you say that in the book, that there are times where you can spot where you've watched a concert back afterwards and you've gone, that's the bit where Robbie Williams turns up.
Yes, yeah, because, Robert Williams from Stoke's absolutely terrified to have 80,000 people watching him. But then, there is this cloak that I put on that's this persona. And that guy is incredibly confident, and I never know which is which and what is what. But I've been reading about Stoicism recently. I don't know if you guys have been reading about Stoicism.
Not recently. No.
No, is that something you did at college?
Well,
Something you did at
I
university?
think in the past I've read about the Stoics, but I haven't read about it recently. Where was it? Down a rabbit hole on the internet somewhere?
Yes, it is. But I find the whole idea of Stoicism interesting. And before the World Cup, knowing that there was 1 billion people watching, I could have been that horse that one day wins a race and then the next day goes into the stalls at the beginning and just won't get in because something spooked him. That's me. So I'm at the World Cup and I'm like, well, this could go two ways. I could either be petrified and terrified that something bad is going to happen in front of 1 billion people, or I could be stoic about this and just do it. And it worked. You know, there was something about stoicism where it's a feeling and a thought and an energy. And for that particular time, I was stoic.
How did you, so you thought it went well? Open question.
On one hand, yes, and then on another hand, all I thought of doing was getting through it without incident, and I think. Why?
We're agreeing with you.
Yeah, right.
You got away with it.
And somebody give me 1 minute to go, and I was like,
you were just checking.
And I was like, 1 minute,
yes.
and they were like, yeah, one minute to go, and I was like, okay, I've got that, and I thought there's 1 minute left. I better do the best I can do.
I have to say, in this book, there is a whole section about Party Like a Russian.
Yeah.
So we're back to September 16, and I love the fact that NME really like it, and you think that's a terrible thing because whenever NME like anything that you've done, it's always a disaster. There's always bad news coming down the track, and then there's and then some Russians don't like it, and then you end up on Russian TV with a guy called Andrei Malakov, and then you end up by volunteering to represent them at Eurovision.
You couldn't write it. You couldn't write it. It's pure comedy. It's where my brain, and I'm impulsive, and I say things, and I think in that moment it would be a great idea to represent Russia in the Eurovision Song Contest because that plays into some sort of devilment that I enjoy. And then I spend a lifetime explaining myself and why I was wrong.
I would just mention that because the Russian episode has backstory, which all turns up in this book. One of the things that I want to do in this Books podcast is not just have people who've written non-fiction, but people who've written fiction, and also saying to everyone else, if you see any extraordinary writing which has been done by, if you're a parent, if your kids write something that you think is amazing, send it in to us. If you're a teacher and you see some outstanding work, send it in to us because we want to mention that. And we got a story which was sent in, and I wanted to read it to you. So this is a story from a 10-year-old boy called Charlie Skinner. All right. So this came into our email. It's just a short story. You're not going to be here for another hour while I read a story. It's just a short story written by a 10-year-old kid. And when I read this, and when Matt read this, you just think this is amazing. The story of Callum and the Black Balloon. Callum Jenkins is a typical 10-year-old. Curious, friendly, full of adventure, and he giggles at rude words like boobies and bum. But Callum has a secret, his invisible black balloon. Now, most balloons are fun, but not the black kind. Callum's balloon is filled with worry and anxiety, and it floats over his head like his own personal storm cloud. Football in PE, Callum frets about tripping over his feet and scoring an own goal. The Christmas Carol concert, what if he forgets the words or sings out of tune? Whatever you do, don't mention his impending doom, a.k.a. SATs, or the balloon might just go pop. Even though it's invisible, Callum tries hard to hide his balloon from others. What if his friends find out about it? That's another worry. He's sure none of them have a black balloon. Their balloons are red and blue and green, and in the case of Jacob Jones, his best friend, is always smiling and doesn't have a care in the world, rainbow-coloured. One day, Mum says, "Dad's not feeling well today. I'll take you to school." What's wrong with him? Callum hops from foot to foot, tugging at the string of his balloon, hopeful Mum won't notice it rearing up over his shoulder like the bogeyman. Bogeyman, that's funny. Is he sick? Does he have a temperature? The flu? He doesn't dare name the thing that scares him most, the thing he saw an advert for last night, the thing where the dad had no hair. No, Mum replies, filling Callum's lunchbox. He just doesn't feel very well, that's all. It's hard to explain. Go and say goodbye. Callum's balloon is a gigantic dark zeppelin as he pushes open the bedroom door. He flings himself on his father's chest. Hey, champ! Dad sits up in bed. And that's when Callum sees it. A shadow darkening Dad's face. He works himself up to ask, his own monolithic balloon now threatening to engulf the whole world, Dad, do you have a black balloon too? His eyes prickle, hot and itchy. Dad looks at Callum in astonished realization. Yes, Cal, yeah, I do, but it makes me feel a little bit better knowing that I can talk to you about it. Me too, Dad, me too. Callum smiles as they hug, and for the first time he imagines his balloon deflating a little, a fart noise escaping from the end. He giggles. By the time Callum and Mum get to school, the balloon doesn't feel like it's going to burst anymore. It's still there, but now it's drifting by his side like a weird dog on a lead. He notices that lots of people are carrying their own black balloons, intermingled with multicoloured ones. Even Mum admits to having one sometimes. They'll be okay, he grins, as he looks at Mum, if they just tell someone.
Wow.
Charlie Skinner, age 10. Thank you very much, Steve, for sending that in.
Yeah.
I read that and I thought, that's 10. I was just trying to think,
Amazing. Yeah.
writing that when you're 10 years old.
That's incredible writing. Deeply moving. I thought, when does he start talking about me?
No, he actually doesn't refer to you at all.
Oh, okay. I wasn't in
Elton
that,
John?
I wasn't in that story at all.
No, you're not
Wrong
in-
number. No, all joking aside, it was incredibly moving, and I closed my eyes while you were reading that, and I was almost reduced to a tear. It's incredible and powerful, and I think a very promising career beckons for that young man.
Yeah.
Well done.
Charlie, thank you very much, Steve, for sending it in. So, Robbie, what do we get next from you? There's a sense in the book that there's new stuff coming, so...
Yeah, there's new stuff coming. I love show business. I love my job. I have different cards to play now, as I'm in the hinterland between Christmas and New Year with my career. You know, it's like I'm a 44-year-old pop star, and I think that pop stars' careers are very much like athletes. They're sort of over when you're like 35, 36, 37. And I've got a new deck of cards that I'm developing and learning how to play my next move. And there's all sorts of things that I've got going on. Obviously, I don't want to spoil anything by revealing them because they all deserve their own dates to be revealed. But for me, I'm very excited about the future. There's an awful lot on. I'm moving into different territories, and I'm excited at what the future holds.
The book is called Reveal, which Robbie has done with Chris Heath. It's entertaining, as we said. It's profound. It's got a lot to say, and I think you're going to love it. Robbie, a pleasure to see you again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.